Hello students, welcome back to the second lecture of mechanical properties of fluids. In this lecture also we will discuss the pressure of fluids and we are going to study about hydrostatic paradox, Pascal's law and its applications, open tube manometer and mercury barometer. Now first we will see what is hydrostatic paradox. So here in this diagram you will observe that there are three different vessels which are interconnected. Now these three vessels are having different shapes but their base areas are equal. So suppose ये तीनों vessel का base areas equal है, equal to A. Now as these three vessels are interconnected, when liquid is poured into one of the vessel, it rises to the other two vessels also and it rises to the same height. So अगर ये same height पे rise हुआ है तो the pressure which is exerted at the base of each vessel is found to be equal. Now in the first lecture of mechanical properties of fluids, we have studied about the pressure due to the liquid column. So there we have derived the expression for the pressure at depth h due to the liquid column. So if I consider one point over here inside the fluid or inside the liquid and I consider the area surrounding that point is suppose small a, then this liquid column above this area exerts the force on that area which is equal to suppose F, which is nothing but the weight of the liquid column. So the pressure exerted at depth h at that point is nothing but force upon area, and as the depth of the point inside the liquid increases, the pressure increases. So as P is equal to H rho G, which is nothing but the pressure due to the liquid column at depth h below the free surface of liquid. As height increases, pressure increases, where h is nothing but depth, rho is nothing but density of fluid and g is nothing but acceleration due to gravity. तो अगर लिक्विड का डेंसिटी इंक्रीज हुआ, अगर लिक्विड का हाइट इंक्रीज हुआ तो प्रेशर भी क्या होगा, इंक्रीज होगा एट डेप्थ h. क्लियर? तो यहाँ पे इट इज ऑब्जर्व दैट as the liquid level in all the three vessels is same, the pressure exerted at the base of each vessel is same. But if you observe the first vessel, the cross sectional area in case of first vessel increases in the upward direction. So you may think it contains large amount of liquid or large amount of water. अगर हमने water लिया है तो, now large amount of water liquid means more volume of liquid. मोर वॉल्यूम ऑफ लिक्विड इसका मतलब उसका मास भी क्या होगा, ज्यादा होगा एज कंपेयर टू द सेकेंड एंड द थर्ड वेसल जो भी लिक्विड कंटेन कर रहे हैं उससे. नाउ टू कीप द डेंसिटी कांस्टेंट, तीनों में सेम फ्लूइड है तो डेंसिटी क्या है, सेम है, एंड डेंसिटी इज नथिंग बट मास अपॉन वॉल्यूम. सो इफ यू कंसिडर दैट फर्स्ट वेसल इज कंटेनिंग लार्ज वॉल्यूम ऑफ लिक्विड, देन मास शुड बी लार्ज. सो अगर मास लार्ज है तो उसका वेट दैट इज m इंटू जी भी लार्ज होगा. As weight is more, so the force exerted by this liquid on the base should be more as compared to the second and the third vessel. तो अगर weight ज़्यादा है तो force exerted will be more, that is pressure exerted at the base of first vessel is more as compared to the second and the third. But ऐसा यहाँ पे नहीं दिख रहा है क्योंकि तीनों में liquid level कैसा है, same है. अगर यहाँ पे pressure ज़्यादा होगा तो this liquid should rise into the second and the third, but ये केस यहाँ पे नहीं दिख रहा है. Clear? So as height is same, the pressure exerted will be same. Clear? So pressure of the liquid column depends upon the height of the liquid column. So from here you can conclude that the pressure at a point depends only on the height of the liquid column above it. It does not depend on the shape of the vessel. And for all these three vessels, as the height of the liquid column is same, the pressure of the liquid column in each vessel is same, and therefore the pressure exerted at the base is same and the system is in equilibrium. So this is hydrostatic paradox. So this can be explained and we'll explain this in the next slide. So here we will consider one more example. So there are 4 vessels A, B, C and D and having different shapes, and they are filled with the same liquid up to the same height as they are interconnected. Now the pressure exerted at the base of each vessel is same, but if you observe the shape of the vessel C, then you may think that it contains large volume of liquid, and therefore the force exerted by this liquid at the base will be more. So as force is more, pressure exerted at the base C is more than the pressure exerted at the base of B, A and D. So one can feel that the pressure of the base of the vessel C would be more than that at the base of the vessel B, and because of this the liquid from vessel C would rise into the vessel B. However, it is never observed and the pressure at the base of each vessel is same. Now what is the reason behind this? So we have considered here a vessel containing a fluid of density, suppose rho. Now these are the two walls of the vessel. Now this fluid or liquid exerts the force on the base of the container as well as on the walls of the container. Now this force is exerted normal to the surface. So in reaction, the walls of the containing vessel also exerts the force, normal force on the fluid. So the arrows indicate the normal force exerted against the liquid by the walls of the vessel. तो यहाँ पे ये लिक्विड वॉल्स पे नॉर्मल फोर्स एक्सर्ट कर रहा है और बेस पे भी नॉर्मल फोर्स एक्सर्ट कर रहा है, and in turn these walls are also exerting the normal force on the liquid. So these forces are nothing but forces of reaction. Now these forces can be resolved into two components, horizontal and vertical. Now horizontal components are acting exactly opposite to each other and equal in magnitude, so they cancel with each other. But the vertical components, they are in the same direction and therefore they get added to each other. So in this case they are acting in the upward direction and therefore they are giving net force in the upward direction. So if you consider the vessel B, these forces, vertical forces, are acting in the downward direction and therefore they will give net force in the downward direction. And the vessel C, the vertical components are acting in the upward direction and therefore they will give net force in the upward direction. So now we will explain this further in detail. Now here we have considered three different vessels of different shapes. They are filled up to the same height and they are having suppose equal base areas. Now first we will consider the vessel C. Now as this liquid exerts the force, normal force on the walls of the containing vessel as well as on the base of the container, the walls exerts the force of normal reaction. Now these normal reactions are not having any vertical component and they are exactly opposite to each other. So they cancel each other and the resultant force which is acting on the base is exactly equal to the weight of water in vessel C. तो यहाँ पे जितना भी वाटर है सी में उसका वेट बेस पे क्या एक्सर्ट करेगा, फोर्स एक्सर्ट करेगा. Now we'll consider vessel A. So again this liquid exerts force on the walls of the containing vessel which is normal to the surface, and this walls also exerts the force of normal reaction on this liquid. So N is nothing but the force of normal reaction which is perpendicular to the inclined surface. Now this normal force can be resolved into two components, horizontal component and vertical component. Now as horizontal components are exactly opposite to each other and equal in magnitude, therefore they cancel each other, and the vertical components are acting in the same direction and therefore they get added with each other. So the net force due to this normal reaction is acting in the vertically upward direction. Now as weight is acting in the downward direction and the resultant force due to the normal reaction exerted by the walls of the containing vessel is acting in the upward direction, it reduces the weight of water which exerts the pressure on the base of the containing vessel. सो वेट है डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन में वाटर का, जो भी वेसल ए में वाटर है उसका वेट है W विच इज इन द डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन, जो सबसे ज़्यादा है बाकी वेसल्स के कंपैरिजन में. एंड द रिजल्टेंट फोर्स which is due to the normal reaction exerted by the walls on the liquid is in the upward direction. So it reduces the weight of water which is acting in the downward direction. So F is the force which is exerted actually by the weight of water on the base, and in return the base exerts the force F. So यहाँ से हमें समझ में आएगा कि the resultant force exerted by water on the base is less than the weight of water in vessel A. वेट ज़्यादा है वाटर का, बट जो रिजल्टेंट फोर्स एक्ट कर रहा है, जो नॉर्मल रिएक्शन की वजह से आ रहा है, वॉल्स की वजह से आ रहा है, दैट इज इन द अपवर्ड डायरेक्शन विच रिड्यूसेस द वेट ऑफ वाटर विच इज एक्टिंग इन द डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन. एंड देखो यहाँ पे भी कितना फोर्स एक्सर्ट हो रहा है, बेस पे F एक्सर्ट हो रहा है. Now we'll consider the condition in vessel B. So again the walls exert the force of reaction on liquid which is normal to the surface inclined wall. Again this can be resolved into two components, horizontal and vertical. Now horizontal component get balanced with each other or they cancel each other, and therefore the net force here due to the normal reaction is acting in the downward direction. So they get added with each other and the resultant force is produced in the downward direction. So the weight which is acting in the downward direction, which is the weight of the liquid, is less than the force exerted on the base. तो यहाँ पे जो वेट है वो क्या था, कम था वाटर का या लिक्विड का, उसको किसने इंक्रीज किया, जो भी रिजल्टेंट फोर्स डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन में एक्ट कर रहा है ड्यू टू द नॉर्मल रिएक्शन, वो वेट को क्या करेगा, वाटर के इंक्रीज करेगा, एंड देयरफॉर मोर फोर्स is exerted on the base of the container. So in case of vessel B, the forces of reaction exerted on water by the inclined walls produce a resultant downward force which adds to the weight of water in the vessel B, and therefore the force exerted on the base will be same, that is F. तो यहाँ पे C vessel में कोई भी वर्टिकल कंपोनेंट नहीं है, इसलिए जितना भी वेट होगा वो बेस पे क्या एक्सर्ट करेगा, फोर्स एक्सर्ट करेगा. सो W इज इक्वल टू F. इन केस ऑफ वेसल A, जो ज्यादा वेट है वो कौन बैलेंस करेगा, रिजल्टेंट अपवर्ड फोर्स विच इज ड्यू टू द नॉर्मल रिएक्शन एक्सर्टेड बाय द वॉल्स ऑफ द वेसल ऑन द लिक्विड, एंड देयरफॉर हियर W which is equal to NV plus F. So F is equal to W minus NV. क्लियर. तो जितना भी एक्स्ट्रा वेट है वो कौन बैलेंस कर रहा है, नॉर्मल रिएक्शन का वर्टिकल कंपोनेंट. क्लियर. देन यहाँ पे इन केस ऑफ वेसल बी, जितना भी वेट कम है वाटर का इस वेसल में, उसका वेट कौन इंक्रीज कर रहा है, जो भी रिजल्टेंट डाउनवर्ड फोर्स यहाँ पे एक्ट कर रहा है, जो वेट के डायरेक्शन में है, वो वेट को क्या करेगा, इंक्रीज करेगा, एंड देयरफॉर सेम फोर्स विल बी एक्सर्टेड ऑन द बेस ऑफ द वेसल बी. क्लियर. सो दिस इज द एक्सप्लेनेशन व्हाई देयर इज सेम प्रेशर at the base of each vessel even if they are having different shapes. So it does not depend upon the shape of the vessel, but the pressure depends on the height of the liquid column. Clear? Now इससे पहले हम लोगों ने pressure due to the liquid column find out किया कितना होता है. So P is equal to H rho G, that is the pressure due to the liquid column of height H, or it is the pressure at depth H in a liquid which is at rest. So H is the height of the liquid column or depth of the point from the free surface of the liquid. Rho is the density of the liquid and G is acceleration due to gravity. But according to Pascal's law, the effect of gravity is neglected and the pressure everywhere in an enclosed fluid is considered to be same. So it states that the pressure applied at any point of an enclosed fluid at rest is transmitted equally and undiminished to every point of the fluid and to the walls of the container. So here the effect of gravity is neglected. तो यहाँ पे हाइट के हिसाब से लिक्विड कॉलम के हाइट के हिसाब से प्रेशर चेंज होता है ऐसा कंसिडर नहीं किया जाता. That it is considered that pressure everywhere and all the directions it is same and it is transmitted undiminished to every point of the fluid. Clear? And to the walls of the container. So now there are many applications of Pascal's law. So hydraulic lift, hydraulic brakes, these are the applications of Pascal's law. And to understand the working principle, here we have considered two cylinders with the different cross-sectional areas. So suppose there are two cylinders, cylinder A and cylinder B, having different cross-sectional areas A1 and A2, and they are joined by a connecting tube. Now these cylinders containing liquid are fitted with the pistons. So these two cylinders are fitted with frictionless pistons. One is having cross-sectional area A1 and the other one is having cross-sectional area A2. So suppose that F1 is the force which is applied on the first piston having cross-sectional area A1. A1 is smaller than A2. तो जब भी हम F1 फोर्स एक्सर्ट करते हैं ऑन दिस पिस्टन, सो यहाँ पे प्रेशर एक्सर्ट होगा, ये लिक्विड पे कितना प्रेशर एक्सर्ट होगा P, विच इज इक्वल टू फोर्स अपॉन क्रॉस सेक्शनल एरिया, दैट इज F1 अपॉन A1. So here F1 is the force applied to the piston of cylinder A in the downward direction. Then the pressure exerted on the liquid in cylinder A is P, which is equal to F1 upon A1, force upon area, its cross-sectional area. Now according to Pascal's law, as this liquid is incompressible, this pressure is transmitted undiminished to every part of the fluid and as well as to the walls of the containing vessel and to the piston which is fitted in this cylinder. So the force which is exerted on this piston due to this pressure is F2 and which is acting in the upward direction. So force applied to the piston of cylinder B in the upward direction is F2 and the pressure which is experienced is nothing but P, which is equal to F2 upon A2, or F2 is equal to P into A2, pressure into area. So according to Pascal's law, whatever is the pressure at this cylinder, the same pressure is here in the second cylinder, and this pressure exerts the force F2 on the piston which is fitted in this second cylinder B. So pressure exerted on the liquid in the cylinder B is also P. Clear? So as F1 is the force applied on this piston having cross-sectional area A1, the pressure exerted on the fluid is P, which is F1 upon A1, which is transmitted undiminished to every part of the fluid and to the walls of the containing vessel and to the piston having cross-sectional area A2. So due to this pressure, the force exerted on this piston will be F2, which is in the upward direction, and therefore pressure into area A2 is nothing but F2. Clear? Now to understand the working principle of hydraulic brakes and hydraulic lift, again we have considered here two cylinders which are fitted with the pistons. Now there is a liquid in these two cylinders and they are connected with the connecting pipe. So they are fitted with the two pistons having different cross-sectional areas. As the cross-sectional area of the cylinders are different, the cross-sectional area for the pistons is different. Now suppose the force which is exerted on the first piston is F1. Now as F1 is equal to pressure into area, as cross-sectional area is A1, so pressure exerted on the fluid in this case is equal to P is equal to F1 upon A1. Now according to Pascal's law, this pressure is transmitted undiminished to every part of the fluid in these two cylinders and to the piston having cross-sectional area A2. So due to this pressure P, the force which is exerted on the second piston is equal to कितना होगा F2, which is equal to pressure into its area, that is P into A2. So P is equal to F2 upon A2. So according to Pascal's law, pressure everywhere in an enclosed fluid is same. So from here we can write down F1 upon A1 is equal to F2 upon A2. तो यहाँ से हमें मिलेगा F2, which is nothing but the force exerted on the second piston which is in the upward direction, is equal to A2 upon A1 into F1. So as A1 is less than A2 or A2 is greater than A1, therefore F2 is greater than F1. So जितना हम एरिया बढ़ाएंगे A1 से उतना फोर्स भी क्या होगा, इंक्रीज होगा. नाउ कंसिडर इफ A2 is twice that of A1, तो 2A1 अगर हमने यहाँ पे सब्स्टिट्यूट किया, A1 गेट कैंसिल, सो F2 इज इक्वल टू 2 टाइम्स F1. तो अगर एरिया डबल होगा तो यहाँ पे फोर्स भी क्या हो जाएगा, डबल हो जाएगा. So from here you can conclude that the small downward force F1 applied to the piston of cylinder A is converted into a large upward force F2 acting on the piston of cylinder B. And this is the same principle which is used in hydraulic brakes and hydraulic lift. Clear? तो यही प्रिंसिपल हाइड्रोलिक लिफ्ट में यूज होता है टू लिफ्ट द हेवी ऑब्जेक्ट्स. बहुत स्मॉल फोर्स अप्लाई करके हम हेवी ऑब्जेक्ट्स को क्या कर सकते हैं, लिफ्ट कर सकते हैं. एंड द सेम प्रिंसिपल इज यूज्ड इन हाइड्रोलिक ब्रेक्स आल्सो. So here this is a hydraulic lift which is nothing but one of the application of Pascal's law. So working principle, just now you have observed that a small force getting converted into large force which is used to lift the heavy objects. So if F1 is the small force applied on the first piston, then the pressure exerted on this fluid is nothing but F1 upon A1, which is transmitted undiminished to every part of the liquid, and the force exerted on the second piston is F2, which is larger than F1. So a small force getting converted into large force F2, and it is used to lift the heavy objects. So this is one of the application of Pascal's law.
Now just now we have seen one application of Pascal's law, that is hydraulic lift. Now we are going to study another application of Pascal's law, that is hydraulic brakes. Now any brake system is used to slow down or stop the vehicles in motion. So hydraulic brake system is also used to slow down or stop the vehicles in motion. And the schematic diagram of hydraulic brake system is as shown in the diagram. So the major part or major components of the hydraulic brake system are fluid filled master cylinder and the slave cylinders at the wheels, which are connected with the hydraulic brake lines. So in this diagram you will observe that there is a brake paddle, there is pushing rod which is connected to the piston in the master cylinder, then there is a master cylinder, there are slave cylinders, 4 slave cylinders at the 4 wheels, and hydraulic brake lines and the brake fluid. Now when the driver applies a very small force on the brake pedal, it pushes the rod which is connected to the piston of the master cylinder. So thus this brake pedal transfers the mechanical force applied by the driver to the pushing rod, and the pushing rod transfers this force or pressure to the piston in the master cylinder. Now the master cylinder contains the brake fluid. So here as the piston moves in the forward direction, it forces the fluid to enter into the hydraulic brake lines. So thus master cylinder energizes the entire brake system and it pushes the fluid into the hydraulic brake lines. When this fluid enters into the slave cylinder, it pushes the piston which is connected over there. So this fluid which enters into the slave cylinder pushes the slave pistons in the outward direction. Now the slave pistons then forces the friction pads against the rotating disc which is connected to the wheel. So as this fluid enters, it pushes the slave piston, and the slave piston in turn pushes the friction pads against the rotating disc which is connected to the wheel. So it produces the friction between the friction pads and the rotating disc which is connected to the wheel, and thus it causes the vehicle to stop or slow down. So this braking system, hydraulic braking system, is using Pascal's law. So it works on the principle of Pascal's law. A very small force which is applied to the brake pedal is converted into a large force and causes the vehicle to stop. So here the master cylinder converts the mechanical force into hydraulic pressure, and the slave cylinders converts the hydraulic pressure into mechanical pressure. So thus it works on Pascal's law. So there are two types of brake, drum brake and disc brake. So first we will see the working of drum brake. So here you will observe in this diagram, there is a small round drum containing a set of brake shoes inside it. Now this drum rotates with the wheel. So when the pressure is applied on the brake pedal, it transfers this pressure to the pushing rod which is connected to the master cylinder piston. So this mechanical force from the brake pedal is transferred to the piston in the master cylinder, and the master cylinder thus converts this mechanical pressure into the hydraulic pressure. So the piston in the master cylinder forces the brake fluid into the hydraulic brake lines, and this fluid enters into the slave cylinder, which then pushes the slave pistons in the outward direction. So when these slave pistons are moving in the outward direction, the brake shoes which are connected to the slave pistons moves in the outward direction. So when they come closer to the drum, they will resist the rotation of the wheel. So in this way the drum brake works. Now we will see how disc brake works. So here in the disc brake, you may observe there is a master cylinder. So this is a piston in the master cylinder. Then there are slave cylinders at the wheel. So this is nothing but slave cylinder, and these are nothing but slave pistons. Then there is friction brake pad which is attached to the slave pistons, and there is a wheel. To this wheel there is a rotating disc fixed. So now how it works. So here you can observe that when the pressure is applied on the brake pedal, it pushes the rod in the forward direction which is connected to the piston in the master cylinder. Then the master cylinder converts this pressure into hydraulic pressure, mechanical pressure into hydraulic pressure, and the piston in the master cylinder forces the fluid into the hydraulic brake lines which are connected to the slave cylinders. So when this fluid enters into the slave cylinder, it pushes the slave pistons in the outward direction. So the brake pads, friction brake pads which are attached to this slave pistons, they then moves in the forward direction, or they squeeze against the rotating disc which is connected to the wheel. So there is a friction between the rotating disc which is connected to the wheel and friction brake pad, which causes the vehicle to stop its motion or to slow down its motion. So this is how the hydraulic brake system is working. This is disc brake and this is hydraulic brake. Now we will study the instruments which are used to measure the pressure. So first we will start with the open tube manometer. So in this diagram you will observe that there is a U-tube which consists of low density liquid which is used to measure the small pressure difference, and the mercury is used to measure the high pressure difference. So one end of the tube is connected to the pressure gauge whose pressure is to be measured, and the another end of the tube is open to the atmosphere. Now as the pressure at the same horizontal level is same, so pressure at point A is equal to pressure at point B. But the pressure at point B is nothing but the atmospheric pressure plus the pressure due to the liquid column above the point B. So pressure due to the liquid column is nothing but H rho G. So pressure at point B will be P0 plus H rho G. Now this pressure is equal to the pressure at point A. So which is equal to again P0 plus H rho G, and therefore the reading at the pressure gauge is proportional to the manometer height H. So this P, pressure of the gas contained in the vessel, is P is equal to P0 plus H rho G, and therefore P minus P0, this pressure difference is equal to H rho G, where H is nothing but height of the liquid column and rho is nothing but density of the liquid. So by measuring the height and by substituting the value of rho, that is density of the liquid, you can calculate the pressure difference, that is P minus P0. Now we'll see what is mercury barometer. So mercury barometer, it is used to find the atmospheric pressure. So here in this diagram you will observe that there is a glass tube, generally 1 meter in length and diameter of 1 centimeter. It is filled with mercury up to its brim, so that there should not be any air in the glass tube, and then it is quickly inverted into a dish containing mercury. So when it is inverted into the dish containing mercury, the level of mercury drops down to some height as some mercury spills in the dish, and a gap is created above the mercury surface. So here there is a gap created above the surface of the mercury in the glass tube and the closed end of the glass tube. So this is called vacuum, or it is also called as Torsell's vacuum. Even if there are mercury vapors, the pressure of the mercury vapors can be neglected. So this type of arrangement is called mercury barometer, and this level up to which this mercury column rises, or the level of the mercury in this glass tube, it is used to measure the atmospheric pressure. So generally at the sea level, this height is observed to be equal to 760 mm or 76 centimeter. So how it is useful to find the atmospheric pressure, that we'll see in the next slide. So again here you will observe that there is a dish containing mercury, then there is a glass tube which is inverted into this dish, and this is the level of mercury in the glass tube. Now as there is a vacuum above this surface and the closed end of the glass tube, so pressure at point A is equal to 0, and as point C, which is outside the glass tube, and B is the point inside the glass tube, they are at the same horizontal level. So pressure at point C must be equal to the pressure at point B, as they are on the same horizontal level. But the pressure at point B inside the glass tube is nothing but pressure due to the liquid column, that is mercury column of height H, plus the pressure at point A. So here we will write down PB, which is the pressure at point B inside the glass tube, is equal to PA, pressure at point A, plus H rho G, that is the pressure due to the mercury column which is having height H inside the glass tube, and rho is nothing but the density of the mercury column, density of this mercury, and G is nothing but acceleration due to gravity. So now as pressure at point C is equal to pressure at point B, so we'll write down here PC is also equals to PA plus H rho G, as PB is equal to PC. Now pressure at point A is nothing but pressure due to this vacuum, which is equal to 0. So we will substitute here PA equals to 0, and therefore PC is equal to the pressure which is due to the atmosphere. So यहाँ पे atmosphere जितना भी pressure exert कर रहा है वो pressure कितना है PC, which is equal to PA, which is equal to H rho G. तो यहाँ पे हमने PA 0 substitute किया, and therefore PC is equal to H rho G, which is nothing but the pressure due to the mercury column above the point B. So by measuring the height of the mercury column in the glass tube and by substituting the value of rho, that is density of mercury, we can calculate the atmospheric pressure. And this height at the sea level, it is observed to be equal to 76 centimeter or 760 mm। इसका मतलब है अगर 760 mm का मर्क्यूरी कॉलम हम लोगों ने यहाँ पे कंसिडर किया इन द ग्लास ट्यूब, वो जितना प्रेशर एक्सर्ट करेगा at point B, the same pressure is exerted by the atmosphere at point C. Clear? So in this way, by measuring the height of the mercury column in the glass tube, you can calculate what? The atmospheric pressure. Thank you.